Hello, Chase here. This is my video response to an online movie review by a amateur film critic named Confused Matthew. I'm going to provide links to his website and to the review I'm going to be speaking about here so that you'll be able to see it for yourself. I'll put it over there and probably on the screen too. I've been watching his stuff for a while, but he recently did a negative review of the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. And that prompted me to create this video, which is actually more of a review of his review of 2001. So this may seem a little strange, but I'm going to use clips from his review to make things clearer, so that should help you follow along. I'm also hoping to make this as interesting as possible, so that you'll want to watch it, because it's going to be multi-part video. Also, for the rest of this video, I'm going to be talking to Confused Matthew directly, just to make it easier, so keep that in mind. And I'm also going to be reading a lot, which you've probably noticed me doing. I kind of have no choice. My thoughts ended up being pages and pages of notes that became so detailed, an improvised version of this simply isn't possible. So, bearing all that in mind, without further ado, here we go. Confused Matthew. I'll admit, as a true lover of cinema and of 2001: A Space Odyssey, I was particularly intrigued when I saw that you were going to be doing a review of the film, primarily since you do negative reviews. I thought to myself, okay, cool. After 40 plus years of philosophical conversation about the implications and influence and meaning of 2001, it would be great to hear some fresh critical perspective on the issue. Now, don't get me wrong, I was very doubtful that you could pull this off, seeing as how no one really has been able to do that in 40 years. But nonetheless, I was willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. Man, oh man, did you disappoint. You seem to have invented new ways of disappointing here, Matthew. While I wouldn't call myself a fan of your reviews, it's fair to say that I've enjoyed some of them enough to continue watching them. Therefore, I did respect you as a fellow lover of the art of cinema, regardless of my reservations about your style. Therefore, I want to apologize in advance. This is going to be brutal, Matthew. I'm angry here, and I have very good reasons for that anger. And while I'll do my best to be as articulate and mature as I possibly can be, some of that anger is going to show through, mainly in the form of sarcasm. It is not my intent to anger you. However, that may not be avoidable. You may take some or all of what I say here personally, but maybe that's not such a bad thing. This is far and away the sloppiest, most nonsensical, and frankly irresponsible review that you have ever done. But we'll be coming back to that at the very end of this. For now, I'm just going to explain to you in extreme detail just how confused you really are, because somebody needs to. You begin your, and I hesitate to call it this, review of 2001, making some intensely sloppy statements and setting up some pretty ridiculous ground rules for criticizing the film in what seems to be a vain attempt to shield your criticisms from criticism. You state that
some movies have become so popular over the years that saying anything bad about them has almost become a form of heresy in our day and age. This goes for some films that have developed a reputation for being awful as well. They have been so blindly accepted as good or bad that their goodness or badness have developed the honorary yet erroneous title of officially good or officially bad. This has led to the following most unfortunate taboos. There are some films you are not allowed to hate. And yes, there are some films you are not allowed to like.
Just as a side note here, using Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, as an example of a movie that we're not allowed to like, not good for credibility, man. I'm just saying. But here's the rub, Matthew. This is a straw man argument. There is no such taboo. You're making this up. You or I or anyone else is allowed to like or hate anything. The factor in this equation that you are interpreting as a taboo is the liking or not liking things requires reasons, and when your reasons are bad or nonsensical, you pay a price intellectually and socially for those bad arguments. Nothing is beyond criticism here. You can freely hate the play Hamlet by Shakespeare for all I care, but expect to have to back that hate up with some damn impressive reasons if you're going to publish that hate in a literary journal, or say it in a crowded room, for God's sakes. Do you see what I'm saying here, Matthew? By the way, throughout your intro and your review, you keep characterizing people who love 2001 as hardcore Kubrickians, whom are both arrogant and deluded, which you never say directly, but you imply again and again in your review, so that you can marginalize their views and ignore all evidence to the contrary. This is called stereotyping, Matthew. Stop it. It's creepy. Are you actually saying here, Matthew, that you think 2001: A Space Odyssey is universally considered a masterpiece by the filmmaking community, as well as some of the greatest artistic and scientific minds to walk the earth in the last 3+ generations, not because it changed filmmaking forever, not because it's arguably the most thought-provoking film ever conceived, not because it reinvented the science fiction genre for the modern age, but because you theorize that it has been undeservedly labeled as officially good by a small minority group that you yourself have unfairly labeled or stereotyped, and now you're here to save the day? You see, the problem here, Matthew, is that besides the fact that you've kind of pulled this out of your ass, it's a childish technique for winning debates against people who don't know how to debate. Your taboo theory can be used to justify any point of view you wish, regardless of how uninformed that point of view demonstrably is. Let's say you encounter someone who thinks that a movie you don't like or understand is great, so you then get to accuse them of participating in this unfair criticism taboo of movies, whereas you, on the other hand, are aware of this serious problem and are attempting to quell the trend in our society. This is dimes toward straw man bullshitting here, Matthew. You need to sit down with yourself in a quiet room and ask why it is that you seem to equate not grasping concepts with shame, that then must be covered over by projecting your personal failings as an audience member onto the movie you're not really watching in the first place. I can't grasp calculus, but I'm not about to blame calculus. I don't study calculus, so I simply excuse myself from the conversation when the subject of calculus comes up as a basic courtesy. And I know that on some minimal level you know exactly what I'm talking about here, as evidenced by your admission on your website that you don't understand the horror movie genre well enough to give a fair review. Perhaps you need to expand that admission to include a few more genres of film, Matthew. Speaking of the horror movie thing, let's cover that real quick right now. On your website, in the requests section, you have 3 rules. The third rule states, and I quote, "No requests to review horror films. I do not understand the genre well enough to give a fair review." Isn't that interesting? Setting aside the strangeness of such an admission, let me get this straight. You openly admit that you are unable to grasp the intricate complexities of the Scream trilogy and Nightmare on Elm Street films, but you've somehow seen right through the facade of Stanley Kubrick and his silly 2001, as well as having all of us hardcore Kubrick fans pegged for what we really are, unwitting participants in some elaborate social conspiracy to declare 2001 officially good and beyond your brilliant criticisms. Yeah, okay, Matthew. Whatever helps you sleep at night, man.